I am a huge fan of this series, and I don't know what that says about me. Hey everyone, welcome back to Candid Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing the first part of You Season 4. Now, I have been obsessed with this show since the very beginning. I am a huge fan of this series, and I don't know what that says about me, but I really love Penn Badgley. You know, I used to watch him on Gossip Girl, and he's a lot of fun, and I think that we've got to see so much growth with him as an actor, and there's so much depth to Joe Goldberg. He's such a complex character, and the fact that we've gotten 4 seasons of You just proves that this is one of the best series on Netflix, and if you have not watched it yet, I seriously think that you should go to season 1 and just start it. Just watch it. You will become invested, because if you are anything like me, you love mess when you're not a part of it. This series is all about watching people's messes. Okay, we get to observe the poor decisions they make, and we get to observe what, their reactions are, their thought process. I think that's the most important aspect, and my favorite aspect of the entire series of You is that we get to go into the psyche of a man, of Joel Goldberg, and kind of see the way he thinks. It's more so rooted in the trauma of his childhood and his past. To see his character grow the way that he has, and to also understand the root of the problem and why he projects certain things onto other women, and why he's predatory. And even though it comes from a good place where he does love them and will be overprotective and will do all of that, obviously it's not safe for any woman to be around Joel Goldberg because of how intense he is and how impulsive he is. The only person that ever matched him was Love in season 3, played by Victoria Pedretti. I think for Joe to meet his match was one of the best things that could have happened to the show. And she was like 10 times crazier than he was. So it was pretty wild, that 3rd season. But I'm here to talk to you about season 4, part 1. I am very happy that they split it into 2 parts, and I'll tell you why. The first 5 episodes of this, and it's going to be a non-spoiler review. I don't do spoilers. You guys know that, unless I do tag it and I need to kind of get into the plot points and what ends up happening. But this is a spoiler-free review of You Season 4, Part 1, first 5 episodes. I want to give a shout out to Netflix for giving me the opportunity to watch these ahead of the release date. I was just ecstatic to dive into this series. And the thing with You Season 4 is that we really switch gears. And you kind of need to do that if you're either going to A, wrap up the series as a whole, or B, send a curveball in order for the character to be pushed a bit forward into the next couple of seasons, because I do not see this thing slowing down anytime soon. I haven't watched part 2 yet. Who knows what could happen? But I think that this season really just changes things for Joe. And he's on a different journey entirely. When we last saw him, he was running after Marianne at the end of season 3, who worked in the library with him. And Teddy Gabrielle does reprise her role in this season. Not that much screen time as I would have hoped, because I really like her. But he changes pace. There's a bit of flashbacks. They still stay true to the structure of the first 3 seasons, but the difference is that now he is the one who is being followed. I think that switch up was really interesting, and I like that we got to a different location. He's currently in London, and he's teaching as a university professor named Jonathan Morse. He had to change his name because of what had happened with Love, and he can't be known as Joel Goldberg anymore. So he's basically on the run, can't go back. And when he's this university professor, he meets another professor named Malcolm, and they become friends. Obviously, Joe/Jonathan needs to kind of be integrated into the society. In the UK, it's a bit different. He's very American. It's a different way of life. So we get to have like a fish out of water type of season with these episodes with Joe/Jonathan, which is interesting. It's a different pool entirely for him to swim in and explore these characters and explore how they think. And again, that's my favorite part, is getting into the psyche of each character, getting into, how observant Joe/Jonathan is and what he catches on to, what he discovers. So they really lean heavily onto the fact that he's a book nerd. He loves books. He loves reading. He becomes an English professor essentially at this university. And we dive into that. There's different genres of books that he presents to his class, that they have conversations with. And it kind of comes to fruition with Malcolm. And I'm not going to give that away, as I said before. So the books that he teaches to his class, they kind of tie in with the overarching story of what happens in season 4, part 1. So he meets Malcolm. Malcolm's a part of this like elite group of people. So we see the power struggle. There's a whole class system. Obviously, the rich get richer. And it's different because obviously Jonathan has his background where he came from nothing. He built what he could. He's a working class man. And the world that Malcolm's in, with all of these other characters that we do meet, they are filthy rich. And they do not care about other people. At least we see at the very beginning that they don't really care for new people. They're mean. They're mean. They're really mean. They look down on people. They are the upper class. We see the social dynamics change. We see how they've come to fame. There's an nepotism, obviously, with who their parents are. They didn't become rich. They're not self-made. It's all inherited. And they act like they know everything. They're very pretentious. They're condescending. It's really interesting because you're pulling Joe out of a very familiar environment that he's able to control. Now that he's introduced to this entire cast of characters, he's not the alpha who has like one up on everybody. He's being introduced into a whole new world that he has never navigated before. So he plays his cards differently. He's more on the DL. He keeps a low profile because he has to, but he is mixed in with very different people. So Malcolm's like the head of this little crew. They take him to Sundry House, which is kind of like their elite bar / mansion / party house / whatever you want to call it. So they go there and he meets everybody. He meets Adam Pratt, who's played by Lucas Gage, the one American within the mix. He meets Kate, who is played by the phenomenal Charlotte Ritchie. I loved her in this. Then he meets Lady Phoebe, who's like really rich influencer with some secrets of her own, played by Tilly Keeper. And obviously Malcolm is played by Stephen Hagen. There are a couple of other characters that come into the mix. One important one that kind of stays with Joe / Jonathan in the first meetings is Reese Montrose, played by Ed Spielers. So he kind of gets on Joe's level. He talks to him. He's a writer. So being a writer, you have to look at all different perspectives. You're not really in like a little box that these other people place you in, but they're all rich. They're all rich. There's this whole like eat the rich storyline that plays out. And it's something that we've seen before, don't get me wrong, but the mystery is actually really good. It's kind of messy, not as like clean cut and direct and straightforward as the other 3 seasons. This one's really messy. And the reason why it's messy is that, like I said, Joe is the one being followed. There's some really cool things that they do to make him afraid to even walk around, afraid to be in his own apartment. He's in a very vulnerable state in the mix with these people in London, and he doesn't know what his next move is. And that's a first for Joe. I think taking him out of an environment that he was really used to and throwing him in with sharks basically makes him a different character in this season. He's going to grow, and they're pushing him into a different character entirely. Really liked it. They set up a lot of good things. I think even talking about his past trauma with other characters in this, I think it really helped him, ground himself in London, because these people, they seem that they don't care, but they actually do. But they just treat him a bit differently than the people at home. They understand his level of trauma. This elite group of people understand that there can be different forms of trauma, and it, manifests and is projected in different forms. And that's what Joe / Jonathan kind of explores, especially with Kate. I think Charlotte Ritchie gives a fantastic performance in this. She's really icy and cold, because of her past, which we find out in this first part. But there are plenty of surprises in here. And the reason why I say there's plenty of surprises is because Joe doesn't act like he normally does. He's trying so hard not to go back to what he's used to. But because he's being forced into a storyline that needs him to stalk people, to research people, to really lurk and understand what makes all of these wealthy people tick. He has to fall back into that step, but he does it in a different way so he doesn't go back to what had happened to him before and not take it that far like he did before. There are plenty of twists, and he takes it very, very differently, which I enjoyed. It's a different approach. He's not as crazy as he was in the first 3 seasons, but someone is pushing his buttons. He's usually the one pushing buttons and sneaking around and really looking into something that isn't that deep. Here, it's more so like he's trying to defend himself. He's trying to protect himself. And that's different than him trying to protect a woman that he loves, which is something that isn't happening in this season. And I think it's more of a character piece for Joe that we haven't seen before. And we get to know him a bit differently because he's not putting all of his energy in a woman, or at least he tries not to in this first half. I was impressed with it. It's a change of pace. I'm not going to give it a grade right now, but I'm just saying that if you are a fan of this series and you have been waiting for Joe to kind of shine a bit more without like a woman by his side and him literally pouring everything into her, I think this is a lovely change of pace for this series. And I think it's going to pay off. I'm really excited to watch part 2. I think part 1 is just wild. It's wild because of the partying, the excess, the way that these wealthy people treat others, treat their partners, treat their friends. I think that's what's so odd about it, is that these people are all friends because they're wealthy, but do they actually like each other? That's when the secrets come out, because, Jonathan / Joe, he's trying to figure this stuff out. So he's talking to everybody, but he's doing it in the tactics like he had to change his game up in order to actually get in with them. He has to be different with these Londoners. So I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys do too. Let me know which season of You is your favorite. Season 3 still going strong. I love that season so much. It was fantastic. If you guys enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe. You can always follow me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.